Welcome to Parchment Update, an interview series from the Parchment Community Library to bring your community closer to you. I'm Karen Woodworth, Library Ambassador. I'm joined today by Cheryl Lyon-Jenness. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Well, I've asked you here today to tell us about summer volunteering opportunities with two groups, the Community Cleanup Crew, also known as the CCC, and the Sunken Garden Crew. I know that each group has a different focus, but it seems to me that both offer a way to get some exercise outside, get some social interaction, and help the community look good. So please tell us what these groups do.
Oh, thank you so much. And I think you've sort of nailed the purpose of these groups and what they do and what they can offer. Let me talk a little bit about the Sunken Garden Group, called from the beginning to bring back the garden, and what that does. That group began in 2017 with the recognition that tending a formal garden in Kindleberger Park was increasingly difficult for the city because of limited resources and limited staffing. So what the group intended to do in its forming was to restore the garden to a form that looked well tended, hopefully was very attractive, but could be maintained at little or no cost to the city. So it was designed, the thinking behind it was designed to be environmentally sensitive. There are perennial plants that are attractive to pollinators, etc. And it's taken a number of years, but the garden is stable and should be easily maintained for a long time to come. That is done by the group of volunteers that tend the Sunken Garden from April through October, and they meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. In the spring from 6:30 to 8, and then usually as the days get shorter in the fall, we move it up to 6 to 7:30 to be able to work. And the chores there include things like pruning, planting, weeding, carrying mulch, mulching things, raking occasionally. Not really hard physical labor, depending on the weather conditions. We've certainly been working under some very adverse conditions, and then it's a bit more challenging, but a variety of gardening tasks. And it is a group that varies from 10 to, they're probably about 15 people that could potentially come and work. I alert them by email a few days before the time. People let me know if they can come. And the idea is you come and spend as much time as you can, do what you can. We provide tools. If you can bring tools, that's even better. We provide refreshments, and there's lots of good conversation amongst people as we work in the garden. I'll just move on to the CCC, the Community Cleanup Crew. That's a group that started a few years ago with the purpose of trying to revitalize Parchment's riverfront, the area along Commerce Lane. It had been in the late 80s and early 90s envisioned as a riverfront park. As I'm sure everyone knows, there's some overlooks there overlooking the river, but it was an area that wasn't necessarily the center of anyone's attention. So we started out cleaning, picking up litter, pruning, raking, etc. Did that for a number of times with, again, a group of volunteers that meet the first Saturday of the month, beginning in April and continuing through October. We usually meet from 10 to 12. And finally decided that we could maybe move on to other projects in the city, which we have done. The CCC has worked at cleaning up the area at the east end of Kindleberger Park, mulching and pruning and weeding. We've worked along Wilson Avenue. We've worked in playground areas in the park. And the goal is really much the same as it is in the Sunken Garden, to provide support to city crews for areas in the city that are really pretty challenging to maintain. With the welcome help of a number of volunteers, those tasks can be completed quite readily. That group operates the same. There's some overlap between the garden crew and the CCC, but not entirely. They're reminded once a month that a meeting session is coming up, respond if they can come or not, and then bring tools if they have them. If they don't, they just come to whatever the designated place is, and we work for a couple of hours. We were at the river and the first of this last Saturday in May. In June, we will probably be at the east end of Kindleberger Park. Again, it's an area we visit once a year now to weed and mulch and prune to make that entrance to the park more attractive. So lots of opportunity, I would say, for people to help in these two ways.
Yeah, we all benefit so much from walking past or driving past and seeing these beautiful areas. And sometimes it can just seem like they're just like that, just kind of magically. And so it's good to find out about all the behind the scenes that goes on. So you did mention tools. So I want to ask, do people need any special tools or experience to be able to help out with either of these groups?
No, they don't. Often, one of the reasons that I always appreciate knowing how many people are going to come, I bring our tools from home, which is obviously limited. If we're going to have a lot of workers, I borrow things from Public Works and then just bring them back the Monday following our work session or the day following our work session. If people have tools that they like to use, they're very welcome to bring them. That's usually true of people that are do some gardening themselves and have pruning tools, for example, or weeding tools that they like to use. And that's always helpful, but it's certainly not required. And the other thing I would say is that one of the probably benefits of this, if you're a very inexperienced gardener, you can learn some things about gardening, about the tending of plants and about identifying plants, etc., by joining this group. Certainly, I would say everyone in the group can now identify poison ivy quite successfully because we've had plenty of experience with that. So.
Oh, I kind of hope that's not the bad experience.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it, but it does. Yes.
But I'm sure the experienced people are now very eager to point that out to first-time
They
volunteers.
are, and we have several people in the group that take it upon themselves to deal with the problem. So we just call on them and the rest of us stay away.
All right. Well, what should people expect the first time that they volunteer?
Well, what happens normally is that I usually visit whatever the site is going to be and make a list of what I perceive to be tasks that need to be done. And so when people come, we're just there. There's always just a group of people there. And we talk about what needs to be done. People decide what they would prefer to do. And that's what they do. If we don't get it all done, that's the way it is. We don't get too excited about that. Sometimes we decide that we need another work session at a particular site, which we would just schedule for the next time. So there's plenty of guidance, but also plenty of freedom to just contribute in a way that's comfortable for people. And again, if you like to, we have one of our regular crew members that's very dedicated to picking up trash, and he normally gets the equipment and then just takes off, whether we're at Commerce Lane or we're in the park, and works away at that for the entire time. But others, have things that they feel more comfortable doing. So I would say that one needs to feel no intimidation at all. We're always so grateful to have people come and help that, again, the choice is pretty free and pretty open.
All right. Well, I'm going to give a little preview of our summer reading program here and say that this year, adults, teens, and tweens can get credit for volunteering with the CCC and or the Sunken Garden Crew in the library's summer reading program this year. We'll have more details on our website when we get to June. But for right now, can we just briefly review the schedule for the CCC and the Sunken Garden Group?
Right. The garden group, the Bring Back the Garden, meets on the second and fourth Tuesday evening of the month, weather permitting, and it normally permits. We're pretty dogged about it. It meets from 6:30 to 8, just in the Sunken Garden. And the next session is coming up May 23rd. So you just kind of need to check your calendar what the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month are. The CCC in turn meets on the first Saturday of the month from 10 to noon. And the trickier part with the CCC is that it varies in terms of locale. What we can probably do for the library program is to decide a little bit further in advance that we normally do, what the July and August sites will be, which will be the most relevant to the program. Again, the June site is going to be the east end of Kinderberger Park, where you come into that entrance to the east of the Little League fields. And it will be very conspicuous. We'll be there. There'll probably be a pile of mulch that needs to be distributed, etc.
Okay, sounds good. So a Saturday morning opportunity or a Tuesday evening opportunity. Well, before we wrap up today, what else would you like us to know?
Well, I think I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these groups. I think the people that have been dogged in support of this have really enjoyed themselves. We always have in the Tuesday evening group, a member of the group who always says mandatory break time, and we all break for cookies and drinks of some sort, of water or iced tea or something, and just chat. So it's meaningful in that way. The same is true actually of the CCC. But I think that probably the more important thing to suggest to people is, like so many other volunteer activities in Parchment, I'm thinking now of the festival and the Little League itself, all of these kinds of things enrich this community immensely. And without this kind of volunteer support and effort, we would be losing a tremendous opportunity to live in a place that's meaningful to all of us. I think our goal with the garden and with the CCC is to create the sense of a well-loved and well-tended community. And it's a simple way to bring that about.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to all of your crews that volunteer to do that as well. And Cheryl, thanks so much for being here today and sharing the information with us.
Thank you so much.